What would actually happen if we disconnected our tiny home from the grid today, forever, even with the cold, dark winter coming? Would we make it through winter, and what comforts would we lose? As many of you know, we lived in our van build for 5 years off the grid, but now we live on the grid. But we haven't forgotten our past. Our home is backed up with battery power to run all essential systems. And that comes in handy because we go out of power a lot. Just the other night, we had an outage for 6 hours. But what if we decide to stop paying our power bill? Could we live comfortably off the grid? What appliances and comforts would we lose? And what would we need to make it work? So today we're testing if we could truly go off grid again with a little help from the solar brand we've trusted for 5 years living off the grid, and for a total of 7 years living here on the homestead. Plus, we'll install an upgrade to make powering through winter even easier. Because winter here is no joke. With the extreme cold, feet of snow, and lack of sun, we need all the help we can get. So thanks to Renogy for sponsoring this video and for coming up with the Shadowflux panel, because it's a technology we really need. We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's get into it. Ooh, I may have underestimated how cold it is. Solar is the most important power generation tool for a battery system, whether it's in a van or an off-grid homestead. Aha, look what's in here. Siding for the off-grid washroom, so stay tuned. Here on the van, we have 200 watts of solar up top. We also have an alternator which helps charge the batteries as well. But when we would come and stay on the homestead in the early days, we would actually plug in the van to the solar on top of the washroom. And I'm not kidding, it literally was just a plug that we'd plug in once we were parked up. And this would just connect that solar with the vans and create more electricity for our batteries, which we badly needed, especially in the winter. And that worked great, but the biggest problem was snow or leaves or spotty shade that would cover parts of the panel, and then basically you weren't generating any power. But we're gonna change that by giving our tiny home the best chance of getting through winter and hypothetically going off grid again. That's because with Renogy's Shadow Flux series, parts of the panel can be covered and obstructing, but the other parts can still be generating electricity and sending it to your batteries. That is not typical at all of normal solar panels and is exactly what we need here on the homestead, which will give us a better shot this winter at generating power on those short and cloudy days. So right now, we're powered by the grid, but not always. It's super vulnerable, especially during winter storms. So let me show you what happens when we're not on the grid. When there's an outage, our battery system will automatically switch over to supplying power to main components or manually, depending on how I have it set up at the time. We have 25 kilowatts of Battle-Born batteries, as well as a 3000 watt inverter, which supplies all the main components we want to power in our home. And we keep it charged thanks to the solar panels on top of the off-grid washroom, as well as our generator, which can also charge up our batteries or power the rest of the home. It's so important to have multiple layers of power sources. This is our backup to our backup. And when there's an outage, which can be a long while in some cases, our battery bank can still power our well pump, our hot water heater, ventilation, lights, outlets, fridge, Wi-Fi, most things. But first, let's go install some solar panels. The way it works with batteries is fairly simple. The sun's energy gets converted into electricity at the solar panel, and the solar panel sends it down to a charge controller. What the charge controller does is it basically makes the electricity from the panel safe enough to go into your batteries. The batteries store that energy and electricity, and when you want to use it, say in our tiny home here, it'll get converted through what's called an inverter. It'll take our 24 volt battery charge, turn it into 120 volts, and from there, it'll make it usable for our appliances and anything else we want to use. So I can do one of 3 things for this install. I can remove the old panels, put the new panels here and plug them in. I don't really see a need for that. I can add the new panels right next to these ones and tie them in together, maximizing the voltage by running them into series to power the home. Or I could add the new ones next to it and use only the new ones for the house. And the reason I think I'm leaning towards that is because their efficiency is so good. If I add these ones on, and let's say they're blocked a little bit like they are right now, I'll lose that efficiency with the new ones. It's best to keep the same type of solar panel altogether. I think I'm aiming for that route. I am not a solar expert, but I think I know what I'm doing. I think. Subscribe for someone who thinks they know what they're doing. You're probably asking, why am I not putting the solar on top of the tiny home? Well, where it is right now, we don't get a lot of great sun. Here, as you can see, we actually do throughout the day, and I don't mind running it over there. I have future plans for a larger solar array I'll mention later, but for now, making sure we're just topped up on our outages, this is gonna work great. Because of the built-in cell level bypass, it means that if part of it's shaded, as I mentioned earlier, the rest just continues working. Plus, it's an N-type cell with 16 busbar technology. The higher the number, the better. These 16 channels running through the solar cells create up to 25% cell efficiency, and it basically means you get more power out of the same amount of space. Plus, Renogy's got great warranties if you ever need them, especially on the Shadowflux. We've never needed it in the 7 years we've been running Renogy panels, but it's great to have it. For all the solar installs I've done in the past, I've just made some really crude mounting brackets to mount it to the roof using old scrap metal. But this time I splurged and I bought some actually Renogy made aluminum ones. And look how clean and nice that's gonna be. I can screw it to here, then I can mount it to the roof super easily. I'm glad I picked these up. What's really cool is these are identical wattages. This panel and this panel are both the same amount of wattages, and look how much smaller this one is. That's pretty nice. I'm gonna add the second one here. I gotta get my butt moving though, because as you can see, the sun is going down very quickly. And I wanna make sure this is set up and I'm not working in the dark. Oh, and one last thing before you see me fast forwarding. These panels, the temperature ranges are extreme. They can handle minus 40 degrees Celsius up to 85 degrees Celsius. And let me tell you, we do hit minus 40 degrees Celsius here. So it's nice to know that this will continue operating, because that's likely when the power will go out. Well, what should have taken me about 10 minutes to install took a lot longer. That's because it's so cold. My batteries for my drill just kept flatting out and I couldn't use them. So I ended up doing some other stuff. But now that they're mounted, I can connect them up. So because I'm doing them in series, I'm gonna have the positive of this panel connect to the tiny home. Then the negative of this panel connects to the positive of the other. I'm not worried about an inline fuse because this isn't a parallel setup, it's a series setup, so we're not as worried. And then here we have our negative, which will connect to the tiny home. I'm really excited to see how these perform this winter. And the good thing is they're IP67 rated, so they can handle heavy rain, snow, everything. And even my scraping when I'm cleaning off the panels, like you saw earlier in the video. I'm also thinking about doing a large array over there, because we get a ton of sun over there during the winter time. So comment below and let me know if you want to see that in the future. For now, I want to get inside. I'm freezing. Let's break down whether or not our tiny home could fully go off grid right now. First, I'm going to manually shut off power from the grid. That way I can show you exactly how this works. Okay, it's pretty dark. Now I'll come up to our battery system and I'm gonna turn on the inverter. Now I'll turn on our dedicated panel, which supplies our essential systems. So now all of our essential systems are working. We have water, hot water, lighting, ventilation in the washroom. We have even a ceiling fan working to circulate hot air. We have our hood vent is working. We can still use our propane stovetop, outlets, and the majority of lighting. And you're probably wondering about heating. Well, that's completely covered thanks to our wood stove. I have a larger video on that from last week if you want to check it out. All of our essential things are working that we need to survive. But what's not working by being on battery power? Basically, whatever's running more than 120 volts of electricity isn't working. That's because our 3000 watt inverter is only supplying one phase of 120 volts. So our electric oven isn't working because that's 240 volt. And same with our electric dryer. It takes 220, 240, so we can't supply that. We can supply 120 though to do our washing machine. And the last large component would be our heat pump mini split, which takes 220, 240, so we can't run that either. So could we survive without those three things? Of course we could. We did it for so long off the grid anyways. Those are comfort items. We can still heat our home with the fire and we could still dry our clothes manually outside, and we could still cook on the stovetop. And yes, I could install a second inverter, that way we could supply power to these items. But there is not enough space in the area I designed for our battery system, not enough to put a second inverter. You can see right now we're only pulling around 314 watts to be powering everything in the home at the moment. And those brand new Shadowflux panels we just installed are gonna keep those batteries topped up during short, cloudy, or partially shaded days. So could we get away with not paying our electric bill the next time and just never going on grid again? Well, as you can see, Sadie has no problem with it. She's incredibly comfortable. Logan and I are very used to being off grid, and baby will be too. But let's talk about realism and future steps. Realistically, our small battery bank and solar array is very practical, but as a backup. It's not limitless. And with winter coming the way winters are, we'd be doing a ton of supplementing with the generator, which is no problem. It's just a lot more work. So could we go off grid forever right now the way things are? Yes. Would we go off grid forever right now the way things are? No. Logan and I have grown accustomed to a level of comfort here in the tiny home by being tied to the grid. So to go back off grid again, we'd need a much larger battery bank and a much larger solar array. Which brings me to future steps. I cannot wait to make a large solar array in the front yard, and I'm gonna use Shadowflux to do it. We have tall trees that produce a ton of shade, a ton of leaves that fall on the panels, and we get a ton of snow and harsh winters. So the Shadowflux panel is ideal for our type of lifestyle here. It's always been our goal to have enough solar or batteries to be able to choose to go off grid again without having to sacrifice the quality of life that we've become accustomed to. And it makes me think, what's that one luxury that you couldn't live without by going off grid? I know mine personally, and that is air conditioning. Comment below. Thank you so much to Renogy for sponsoring today's video, and thanks to them, they're making off-grid super accessible. If you want to check out the Shadowflux panel, you can find it linked below. And if you want to see more solar stuff here on the homestead, I have a video where I created a Pimp My Coop. You can find it up here. That was a fun one to create, eh, Sadie? Until next week, I'll see you guys then.